I don't know if more people are coming or not. And just, yeah, I was just saying that I was just talking to my mom after having had this week a conversation with Clinton where he asked me about, he said, there's so much I don't know about you. Like, have you ever been to Europe before? And I was like, well, I have, I'm a well-traveled human. And it's funny because I, of course, my whole life I've compared myself to other more well-traveled humans who have been to more places than I have been. And kind of, I've only been to, I don't know what it is, 16 countries or something. But I actually, this is the first time that anyone has said to me, like he said, I was telling about how I traveled with my family for 6 months when I was 12 years old. And we came to Europe and we went to also into Israel and Egypt and down to South Africa. And he said, so you've been a global citizen since you were 12 years old. And I realized that I'm not really sure, what the tipping point is for that moment where a person could say, I'm a global citizen. But if it has to do with travel, the first international trip I went on, I was 14 months old. And it was for the summer. And then we traveled again when I was 5, extensively. And then again when I was 12, and again when I was 18. And I even, while I was a single mom, living, I always say, so far under the poverty line, I thought it was the sky. I still managed to travel to the UK a handful of times and to go to South Africa also with my sons. Mm-hmm. And I think that the gloriousness of that has been eclipsed by how discouraging and devastating it was for me to not be able to take my own children traveling more often, even though my kids are, compared to some, very well traveled. So yeah, kind of, and now being a passport carrying, one pack, one carry-on human again, it's kind of, it takes me back to something that I have a lot of experience with and a lot of appreciation for, and I like that I know how to do this. I know how to do this travel thing, even though it's very different now. And I had been focused on how it was different back when I did my latest trip to South Africa was, it was before smartphones.
Oh yeah.
And Google Maps and even Airbnb, it hadn't got like it is now. And then before COVID, of course, which made it a whole different kind of adventure. Oh, here's Naomi. Oh, and here's Corolla.
Hi.
Hello, Naomi.
Great to see you.
Hi, Naomi.
Hi, Joanne. Nice to see you as well.
Yes, very lovely to see you.
Yeah. I've been missing these faces.
I can't hear you very well, Naomi. Do you have a way of turning up your...
I need to figure that out. It's never quite loud enough. So maybe I'll mess around with my settings.
Hello, Carola.
Hello.
It's good to see you, even though it's on the screen now.
Yeah.
Carola and I just spent lots of time screaming and crying and yelling and going through processes together and eating meals, and it's been
Wonderful.
so great. And I just now, just as I was starting the call, Anne Elizabeth came in and waved and left, and it's like that's my first time seeing her in person after months and months and months of seeing her on a Zoom call. So you never know what might happen from seeing people on Zoom calls a lot. You too may end up in Portugal. Or
Mhm.
One day.
I was just telling Carol, or telling Joanne, sorry, about how one of my big kind of like something I became more aware of this week is that I have been a global citizen since I was a year old, and I was just talking to my mom about this realization, and also about all this appreciation and just recognition that I'm experiencing from having more layers of the emotional kind of old stuff cleared out, especially regarding my parents, and what a clearer view it gives me of my upbringing. And I got to thank her for providing me with such an extraordinary upbringing, where I was traveling internationally by the age of like 14 months, and then taken all over the place, like so many places. Again when I was 5, and again when I was 12, and so that I could then do it myself when I was 18. And also they took us on many, many road trips in all the directions from Cranbrook, west to the coast, countless times, north to Alaska, east to Nova Scotia, south to San Francisco, or just south of San Francisco. So that built me a lot of matrix, and I'm putting to good use now. And one day I'm going to ask my mom to come on a call with me and record her telling me about a trip that she did when she was about 18 or 19. She had gone from South Africa to France to study at a university in Paris for a year. And when she was done her studies that year, she hitchhiked home from Paris to South Africa.
Wow.
And that's enough to be like, that is a legend. I want to know the details. I want to know as many stories from that legend as she can remember.
Yeah.
And she reminded me of a story that I had kind of forgotten about, or just had the bare sketch of, which was that she and I went down to Spokane once from Cranbrook to see the musical Cats. And on our way home, we got down there in time for the matinee. We watched it, we had lunch, or we had something to eat, and we started driving home. And on our way through one of the smaller towns north of Spokane, there was a community theater was putting on Annie. And we just were like, yep, let's watch that too. So we stopped and watched that. And she said, I don't know what time we got home that night, but we saw 2 plays in one day, and one of them on
Wow.
purpose and one of them by accident. And I had tears because I felt this sweet sadness of having not remembered that so fully, and just I was so touched that she had taken me to go and see plays, and I was such a fan of theater. And I've had this story that my mother didn't nurture my dreams of being an actress, and just not true.
Aw.
I feel glad about that. I would love to hear each of you say something about how things are for you. And I would love to hear any questions you have that anything you'd like to hear me talk about, that so that you can be in on this adventure that I'm on. Maybe not as much as Carolla's been in on it, but
Why?
not no one will be able to have been in on this adventure as much as you were in on it. But
Okay, because
yeah.
I was there with you. Okay,
Yes.
I got that wrong.
But yeah, I just really want to share about it because it's been so rich. And yeah. So anyone can start.
Well, I'm always very happy when you are out learning things because you are so generous with your knowledge and your honesty, always standing in your truth, and now talking about your mother, knowing that there were misconceptions you had, and I'm so glad for you that you are able to uh, I was going to say right some wrongs, but it's not really that. It's just thinking about things in a different way. And I I've been thinking about this mother graduation. I was seeing a box of old diapers that I'd saved for my children, and I thought, I think I need to do a mother graduation with these diapers. And and but I just so appreciate your introduction to these various things, and so I am very happy that you've been able to connect with more people and more knowledge. And Clinton's book is awesome. I really, really enjoy it, and his thoughts, and I just really love this possibility management, that we are not stuck in a box where there are no possibilities. There are possibilities out there, and we just need to tap in, keep our eyes and ears and minds open and to learning. And I just, I don't know, I just feel like my life is so changed from all the things that I thought about myself, and I'm able to now stand in my truth so much more powerfully than I ever have been. And then I can be confident that this is me. And it brings me such peace and joy. And there's been some low level anger going on, and some fear, and sadness, but there's always joy in all of it. That's sort of the bottom line. So thank you for sharing the global citizen that you are. I just feel that's so incredible. I'm very, very glad you were able to experience that. So thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you.
Yeah, I just definitely want to echo all the things Joanne said. Just so grateful to know you and just the influence that you have on so many of us, and bringing us into this kind of new world.
Mhm.
of being. Yeah. Yeah, I've been keeping up with the Directing the Power of Conscious Feelings book club. That's like the main PM space that I'm always going to. I'm always looking forward to it, and I've been getting more comfortable in it, in participating. And I even led our grounding the other day, which was a great little practice. So I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Yeah, first
Yeah.
position. So I'm enjoying just kind of having opportunities to practice and get comfortable.
Yeah.
And just in general, in other areas of my life, I've been being able to have better awareness. Right now I'm doing like a breath work challenge for myself, so just kind of staying present and noticing my breath more and practicing it. So that's just helping in general, becoming more aware and present. I've
Mhm.
done so much more like feelings lists,
Mhm.
like trying to explain things from my four feelings. I even started quantifying them with the numbers from 0 to 100. So like literally since you've left, it's just like I've been doing like so much. I've just been so much more aware of it. I've been holding way more space. I held a sharing circle yesterday, and I'm just like feeling kind of more comfortable in it, and like it's finally starting to come more natural. I even held a mini rage club for we're in like nonviolent communication in our chapter on rage, and I happened to be the host, and I held a little rage club. And I've been sharing it with like everyone that
Yes.
I can. So I've been like really feeling into this. I'm really looking forward to when the possibilitator training starts, because I'm like really ready. And I guess like from your experience there, I'm just kind of curious like where it's taking you, and maybe just like I know I've been like reading like your Patreon emails, so I have like a bit of a sense of kind of what's been going. But maybe some like big revelations, and if you feel like you've kind of changed into a new person, because I know you've been doing a lot of this work over the last year, but this seems like a really big intensive shift for you. um, and maybe kind of like a new vision or a new goal you have for yourself or the world that you're trying to create. Yeah, it'd be cool to hear.
Mhm.
Yeah, Nicole, I just had a course, an introduction course to PM, which I have since 4 months. And of course, I was super interested in what we have done the last days. And I just started telling, and then so many questions came up. So just a possibility from me, when you start telling what, and I'm interested in which were the most important steps and exercises and shifts for you the last days. If you would like to tell. I mean, as you asked for concrete questions, and they haven't come so far, and I think that things will just arise. Arise? Yeah, is it existing, that word?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In regard to how things look in terms of where I'm going, that's there's some things that become clear. I've been like there have been some clear and somewhat open invitations to visit other possibility managers, in one in Cairo, Egypt, one in Germany, where I might be able to stay for some time. And also there are two women here who I've created a gremlin scouts, we're calling it, a gremlin 3 cell, who come from Colorado, who are in Boulder, and they're working on an incredible project there. So it has yet to become clear. I did find out that I can stay in the EU for 3 months without a visa. I wouldn't be able to get a visa from inside the EU. And so if I want to come back for longer than 3 months in a 6 month period, I would have to leave, get a visa, come back. So there's just some logistics that I'm more clear about. And it's hard to tell yet what will really show up. And then there's this ongoing conversation with the the Possibilica headquarters general mimetics team that's it's kind of still emerging about this bridge house project that is like in emerging as a next step for Clinton and Chloe, Vera, Brianne, Sophia Magdalena, and there's still clarity for Devin and I are still, kind of in the process of orienting and feeling in and finding out what's for us, like authentically. And in this week, I really my experience was that I kind of came full circle to and really got all my parts kind of a bunch of different parts of me kind of caught up, and a big part of that was this becoming consciously identified, like having this shift in identity from unconsciously being a global citizen and not having been that for a while to, whoa, it all caught up with me. It's like, I am a global citizen. I've been a global citizen all my life and I didn't know it. Mm-hmm. It's really in me now. And also one of the big processes that we did this week was an initiation where it's a lot about speaking to your parents and speaking about how it was in childhood and how it's been to have these two parents that each of us have. And for some people it included step parents and grandparents and other kind of parental figures. And then one of the things that happens during this initiation is that our parents kind of go from being in front of us to moving behind us as ancestors. Oh. And then it means that there's this new kind of energetic openness where what's in front of me is my life, and I'm creating my life, and my parents and my other ancestors have my back. And for me, this was an extraordinary experience, especially in that my mom and my dad were kind of like the good cop and the bad cop of my childhood. And my dad was this, perfect guy who died young, and I've been a victim of becoming half an orphan ever since. And that my mom was the kind of bad cop that I was then left with. And, I had this whole low drama story about just how I was a victim of my life and my parents. But this yummy, great story with my father where I'd never let myself feel any anger or have any resentment, or it was just I just didn't go there. And in this process, I was able to actually be real about like I hate that he died. I'm pissed at him for dying. Yeah. I'm pissed at him for I didn't know I had all this anger about all these things, and to be able to tell him that, and to be able to hear from him like with my energetic ears, hear from him about how it was for him, and to hear from my mom and through my energetic ears and almost like my DNA about how it was for her, and to say all these things that weren't said, and to hear all these things that I'd never got a chance to hear that really I know are there. I mean, I know my parents love me, and if they knew that I had, these stories and this anger, I'm sure they would say all the things I heard them say. Mm-hmm. And coming out of that was, it was really a bit of a rebirth, like I had a new childhood. And yeah, none of it's changed, but how I relate to it is really transforming. It's like all of this emotional crap and all these victim stories were eclipsing this glorious childhood that I actually had. So that was a big one. Another big one was that we did a bunch about these 12 what are called floor processes. And I have done a floor process without knowing that it was a floor process, and it was a really significant process. It was a birth process. And I did that on Zoom with Anne Chloe, and I was so lucky to have two people there who could kind of do the kind of bare minimum of the hands-on part that just really meant so much and changed so much for me. Mm-hmm. And there are 12 floor processes, so I've done one, and then it was introduced to the other 11, and then had a turn holding space for someone to do one of them called a diaphragm process, and then they held space for me to do the same process, so I got to know it from both sides. And it's really about clearing out using our energetic fingers, a lot like for unmixing emotions, but it's like taking handfuls of energetic old fear out of the diaphragm area where fear tends to be stored in the nervous system, and just using anger, conscious anger, to pull it out and find out where else it's kind of got roots into the other parts of my body. So that was like probably a half hour of rage, and then there's this way of activating the energetic hands to do this, and it was I was different after that and have not gone back to how it was before. And then woven through it all, I've been doing a lot of experiments, and every day I've been going into my beat book to kind of review my experiments and how they're going, and make sure that I'm on track with myself. So that's been.
I feel joy to hear, Kian.
So that's been ongoing, and some of it's been really challenging, really. Like I think what happened is that first year of doing possibility management online, great, got a lot of processing, a lot of initiations happened, and then coming here and being in person was like, whew, like next level. And I noticed, like I was telling Joanne before we started recording, she said, "Is it everything you expected?" And I've been catching myself. I told her, like, I try to make a personal policy out of catching my expectations, so I don't have expectations, and it's so tricky. They sneak in, and so catching them. You know, sometimes I don't realize that I had an expectation until I have this anger and this resentment, because my unconscious expectation didn't pan out, and now there's this anger and resentment, and then it's got to kind of dismantle it and follow it back and figure out, you know, where it came from, what the benefit to my gremlin was, how my gremlin is helping me avoid responsibility so that I'm avoiding transformation, so that my box doesn't change, and then just letting the liquid state happen. So that's been this ongoing kind of arc that I really, I think it was even today, really came to this new starting over point.
Cool.
Yeah. And I want to tell you some, like, so many people who are reaching out on Messenger and texting and are like, "How's Portugal? What about Portugal?" And it's kind of got to the part where it's like, you know, I'm not really here for the Portugal part. It's not about Portugal. But something else that really just happened on these last 2 days off is I was like, I'm in Portugal. I already knew I was in Portugal, and I already had gone to the beach, and I was already enjoying like all kinds of new food that I haven't ever eaten before, like food put together in ways I've never put it together before. It's almost apricot season here, and apricots are some of my favorite fruits. And there's an apricot tree right out the door here, and it's got apricots on it, and it's like I'm gonna be able to for the. Have I done that before? I may have picked apricots off trees and eaten them when I was a kid, but not for so long.
Yeah.
And just having these like juicy local apricots that are so like they just taste sunshine to me. So that's been fun. And here in Mafra, there's this huge palace that was built a long time ago, and the building that we're in is actually even older. This building is 1,000 years old. Parts of it are 1,000 years old. Like this wall is part of an 1,000-year-old structure that would have, when it was built, have been like in the middle of nowhere, and now it's so populated. But the member of the royal family who 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 this was his home, and this is where he lived while his palace was being built. And his palace up the road is this massive, impressive building that I didn't make it to yesterday when I had hoped to go there, but I'll try again. Hello, Roger.
Hello.
You've joined a moving train. We're in the middle of things, and I just started telling people have been mostly interested in the training that I've been up to here. But I just thought I'd sneak in some stuff about being in Portugal since that's where I am, and it's pretty neat too.
I'll catch up. Just pretend I was
I'm
always
recording
here.
it so you can always watch the first half.
Mhm. Thank you.
Oh, and that leads actually, the Portugal part and the processes part come together in a really magical way that that I've that's also part of a new experiment. And I will, along with this telling of this goes, there's a website that goes with it called Journey into the Earth. And a journey into the earth is a process that Clinton learned and was asked to hold space for other people to be initiated into journeying into the earth. And it's all about finding energetic gateways in the morphogenetic field of the earth. And a lot of these energetic gateways were like were part of indigenous cultures, like Stonehenge is built on one, and it's connected to ley lines and vortices, and but there are these gateways where 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 it's possible to go into them, and so before coming to Mafra and before all this started, Clinton and Chloe had been looking around for a local gateway to use to go into. And it turned out that in times long ago, often these gateways were kind of co-opted by the people in power in the area. A lot of churches are built on them, and a lot of palaces are built on them. So he had, he had seen that this tower that is 1,000 years old and the palace that was built were like on this straight line, and there's this knoll in between them, and there's a church, a very old church built on this knoll. And so he thought, maybe there's a gateway in the church, and couldn't really get in there to see it. But then he realized that there was one here, and they kind of, we got a chance to practice looking at the gateway and really like kind of dropping out of our physical eyes into our energetic eyes, and and seeing what happened when we did that. And then we also went and all sat down upstairs on the patio together and energetically went to the gateway, spoke to the gatekeeper, and brought a question, an authentic question. And I had an experience which is kind of is super remarkable. I'll tell you a little bit about it. My question was about how can I tell, what do I need to know in order to unfold my next steps? And I was shown a book, and the book had symbols in it, and I was told this was my book, and to draw these symbols. And one of them was, there was a picture of a person's hand that was like this, and there was a tattoo of 3 dots on the wrist in this drawing, in this book. And afterward, a lot of people shared about their journeys that they went on, and they had like elaborate stories and conversations that they really captured. And mine was this kind of patchy, like got shown a book, not much else happened. And so I didn't share in the circle, but afterward, my friend Eula sat down with me, and we talked for a while, and I shared about this. And she bends down and she lifts her pant leg, and on her ankle, she has 3 dots tattooed on her ankle, just like a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, and a little bit smaller dots. And I just was like, wow, this was not made up fantasy woo-woo bullshit. And another thing that came to me from that experience was that in the basement of Awakening House, I had 3 different people at 3 different times tell me there's a vortex here. And I was kind of like, okay, there's a vortex. And then one of the people was like stand here, like, can you feel it? Like, feel into it, see what you, and I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, I feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of knew that I lived with this vortex in my basement in the temple room, which kind of was like, yeah, no wonder it's so, I like it in here.
Yeah.
What dawned on me after going into this gateway was that a vortex and a gateway are the same thing. And it's just like over here in Europe, all the vortices, they've got churches, they've got towers, but in North America, of course, the indigenous people, like, they would go to these places, and sometimes there are structures, like there are some sundials and there are some circles, stone circles, like, but they're way more subtle than some of the ones that are in other parts of the world. And so no wonder, many of them would have just got plowed over and stuff got built on them.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing is that because this is an energetic activity, I don't have to go back to Calgary to go into that vortex.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that I was going to do it. And I did it for the first time yesterday morning. And this time I kind of had more of a longer story, and more conversation happened. And I visited a few different kind of places that I accessed through that vortex. And I was asked to tell about it to the people who have been to Awakening House, who found out there's a vortex there, and also to the person who lives there now, or who will be living there starting July 1st. And I was told, please, like, take them through that process. And I was also told, and please come back here for 7 days in a row. So I went again today, And there was another layer and more instruction and more insight was shared with me about another question I have. So for 7 days, bringing 7 different questions. And then next week or the week after, getting in touch with people who have been there, who, I mean, anyone really could come to that, and sharing about this possibility and this initiation that anyone can really do on their own to go into gateways with authentic questions and find out what happens. It was, yeah, it was, like sometimes coincidences that happen just are like the 3-dot tattoo thing, that it's like, out of all the possibilities that there are for people to have a tattoo, that it would be that one, that it would be the person that I was speaking to immediately after, the first person I told about it. Something that happened in the journey yesterday and today was that when I was asking gatekeepers their names, they kept telling me their names were names of characters in movies, like Gandalf and Sauron, and this one little girl I saw looked just like the girl in the Neverending Story, and I was like, oh fuck, all my movie watching and book reading all these years is like contaminating my authentic energetic experience. And I just thought, fuck, I'm doing this wrong. I'm not getting it. I'm just making shit up out of movies and books I've read. And I finally said this to one of the gatekeepers. I said, look, at like, I don't think I heard your name right, because I keep hearing names from characters in Lord of the Rings. And he said, where do you think Tolkien got those names? And I was like, oh my goodness, like, that just made sense to me. And then, yeah, there was more to that, but it was kind of, yeah, I'm getting goosebumps right now, remembering it and thinking about it, and thinking about how another one of the jobs that has been put on my archetypal workbench has been kind of in the works for the last 10 years, and is this epic legendary story that I first got as a movie in my head, and then started going, wow, that would be a great movie, and started writing about it. And it over the unfolding of this like movie version in the shower one day, to kind of the more full story that I now know as this legendary epic story, has woven in all kinds of crazy other connections with another movie that's out there in the world, and it weaves in with this journey into the earth, and it weaves in with everything that I'm doing and discovering in these possibility management based trainings. So there's this whole possibility now of actually buckling down and writing this thing. So that is more of a clear item on my workbench now that so many other things are kind of being brushed off. So I haven't committed to writing that yet. I'm just noticing now. We'll see what happens. I would need a lot of conscious anger to focus, right? And I would need the Earth's Coincidence Control Office to help me out with that, I think.
Forward to reading it one day.
Yes.
Thank you. Maybe even watching it with me in a theater.
Wouldn't that be great? Yeah.
Of this crazy.
Wonderful.
We're kind of in the biggest theater available right now.
Yes.
Or,
And isn't it incredible how many writers and movie makers have like plugged in these epic archetypal stories to inspire and inform us. And it's something I really love about possibility management. There are these lists of books and movies that you can earn in the Start Over XYZ game. You can earn matrix points by reading them or watching them. And I've been basically, that's all I've been reading and watching for the last while. And I'm reading a book called Treason right now by the same author as Ender's Game, Orson Scott Card.
Yeah.
And the richness of some of the thoughtware that these characters are experiencing and discovering and speaking to each other blows my mind. I wish I'd put a bookmark in on these 3 sentences that just like that they landed in me really clearly. The character lives in a different world and is on this epic personal journey, and encountered some people who declare that they are uncivilized and they don't need to eat, and they can learn from other people's DNA. Wild stuff.
who did you say wrote that one?
Orson Scott Card.
Love his books. I'm going to put that one on my list.
Yeah. And then you can enter the code, get your matrix point. Actually, I think it's 3 matrix point for books. Roger just disappeared into the galaxy or into a nebula or something.
Have you ever read this one?
Oh,
Was it backwards?
Oh, yeah. That's on the list.
This is my background screen.
Oh, yeah. That book is also on the list. And
It's amazing.
One of Heinlein's books. Awesome. I read that in high school. I still remember the impact. Yes.
Can I share with you a little bit about portals? That was what really
Yes.
came to me when you were talking. So, like talking about portal keepers or transformational portals and stuff. 2011, an event happened to me, and I found myself at Great Canadians. It's like they call it Great Canadian Stonehenge. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's a medicine wheel.
Yeah, near
prairies. Anyway, yeah, it's about an hour out from here, a little over. And anyway, so long story short, a whole bunch of synchronistic events took me out there with called, and it was like we were opening that portal. And when strange, super strange shit happened that night. And the next day I came home and I was on the internet and I found out that people all over the world were randomly being called portals of us, like some strange mind fuck thing happening, some mental aberration or something playing out that was like something that was actually happening all over Earth. That was the first time I'd ever done anything like that I know of. And then last winter, so December, or this winter that just passed, December 21st, I started getting a calling again, and a whole bunch of stuff happened, and I met up with this big group of people, and a friend of mine was creating a big spiral here in Lethbridge, and it all come to this one day where suddenly it was like I was activating all these people in this group that showed up at this one event. And after that activation, we went to this spiral and basically activated a big portal in the spiral. And the stuff that was happening to people was like in imagination, it seems like only, but it was real, and people could feel and see the strangeness of the unfolding, or the transformations, or whatever the things that were happening that were going on. It's hard to describe without going into details, but and then just like maybe about 4 weeks ago, I noticed something on the internet, and I saw somebody build this stick formation, and it really lit up for me. And I sent it to my daughter, said we should go build one of these, and she's like, challenge accepted. And so anyway, a few days later, I found myself in a coulee in one area, and all of a sudden I could feel this kind of, I could see and feel this wall of energy that was like in an oval, and it was like a doorway, if you will. And just in that moment, I knew I was going to start building this. So like I was barefoot in this coulee, and I was putting sticks around, and I built this oval transformational portal out of like, I don't know, 800, 1,000 sticks or something. And I grabbed some bark from that was under this tree to kind of put it on the ground to identify like a walking platform so people could walk through. And I put it down, and I stood back, and then I looked back at it, and it was a hexagram. I hadn't realized I had set up a hexagram in front of the transformation portal. I hadn't even identified it as the transformation portal at that time. And the hexagram was hexagram 32, which was exactly what I was going through emotionally and in my life at that moment. So when it was done, I got silent, walked through, and I could feel a shift. It was like something was moving through my body, and on the other side of the portal, everything, it felt like I was in another land. It was the strangest thing. And so about 3 or 4, and the number 46 was really strong in my mind. So a few days later, went back down after a big windstorm. Now, this transformation portal I built is freestanding. It's not secured by any trees, anything in the ground. It's like this, 7-foot thing, and like Lethbridge winds are like huge. And I went down there, and it was still there. It hadn't moved or shifted at all. And so that number 46 was coming to me again. So I changed the hexagram in front of the portal to 46. And I stood there, walked through, and all of a sudden I felt that same. It was like this sheet of energy moving through me. But on the other side, I had some different knowledge. I had some different ideas regarding hexagram 46, which is like moving forward, moving ahead, not looking back. It's like my full attention moving forward. And it was like everything in my being wanted to look back at that portal as I walked through, but all my essence was like, no, it's time to move ahead, time to keep moving forward. So I just kept walking that day. And I ended up, it was the strangest thing. It was like I was in another planet, or another Earth, or some country. And I was following these paths and different things. And all of a sudden I was like, I had no idea where I was. I didn't even feel like I was in Lethbridge anymore. And I found I don't know how old this thing is, but it's like kind of this home that somebody built in a whole bunch of the woods here, and I only found it because I was following this moving ahead frequency and stepped into this thing, and it feels amazingly magical. And I've taken a couple people there, and it's like this healing den or something. It's so bizarre. Anyway, I just felt that I'd like to share that with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds like quite a set of experiences.
I mean, really, the most difficult part of the experience is the letting go. It's the allowing for that flow, because my logic mind is like, what the fuck are you doing? This is like crazy shit. This is batshit crazy. You know, people are going to see you. And when I was building that one, people were walking by, and I was like, a little piece of me would look inside, oh, how do I feel about people witnessing me doing this? And it helped me move beyond it. So that was kind of what 32 was anyway. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I would say, if there's such a thing as a portal keeper or a transformational portal person, human here, I would be one of those.
I shared the website, the Journey into the Earth website, and it has some of the distinctions that have been discovered through like using this process, going through this process. And it's a very distinct process. It's not like a whole bunch of experimenting did kind of, it's a pretty clear kind of step by step way of going into the gateways. Yeah. So I booked a couple of hours for this call, not knowing how many people would be able to make it, and a lot of people who I invited weren't able to come tonight. So I just wanted to say something about the time, that we probably won't go the full 2 hours. But I also want to hear anything that anyone wants to share about or ask about, including to Roger about what he shared about.
Yeah, for me, it was interesting to hear you, as I've been there as well. And for me, completely other things were the most important things of the journey. And especially, I thought, or I said to a lot of people, it's so many things in such a few days, and it's impossible to use all the tools. It's so just, you get so much information, so many tools. And sometimes I felt like, wow, stop, please. I just want to practice the tools. And it's nice to see that everybody takes completely different things out of it. And the most amazing moment or most transforming moment for me also has to do with Roger's story right now, just a little bit more practical, I would say, was the intimacy cafe. So we had first the ETB, which is 5 days, and for beginners, and then you have labs. I don't know how much you know about possibility management, which you can do after having done the ETB. And usually there's an intimacy cafe where the gremlins get food. So there's really chocolate and cakes and a lot of that stuff. And people find each other, have talks together, two people, little groups, whatever. There can happen a lot of things. And we had the option to go to the Clinton and Chloe to get some questions. And I don't even remember exactly the intimacy question we had in our little group, but it was about to give feedback, I think, how we keep ourselves small or try not to transform. And so I got feedback from 4 people, And then one of the women there told me, yeah, I can already see in your body, and you underestimate yourself. And then she said, why don't you do it right now? Just take your shoulders back and grow from the inside. And it was just a couple of seconds. And then she said, okay, and now take another pair of glasses and take off the victim glasses, put them aside, and now take the glasses of the big Carola, who just totally trusts in whatever she says and does. And she said, and now stand up, turn around, and see in the eyes of the people here, look in the eyes of the people here with those new glasses. And I felt like in trance. Do you say that in English? In trance? I was like in another universe, and seeing completely with other eyes, feeling I was not there really. It was, yeah, my energetic body, I think. And then somehow the people in the room also felt that, and Brianne was coming, and I spoke to her in a complete different way, and she made this completion loop, and it was such a fantastic moment because I felt my box was not there, was not stopping me at all. And the days after, so I was very afraid the first course and also the second, because we were 50 people and then 40, so very good big group, everything in English. It was really a challenge for me to say anything, not even something personal. And after that, I could just change my glasses, and it worked. And it was, I don't know, a minute of transformational work, and it was so efficient. Yeah, it was, I think that was the best moment. It wasn't even an exercise planned by the organizers, by the trainers. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it reminds me of of something else about that's been really extraordinary. And you said it like it like mm, there's this, I think it's one of the sparks that says the space determines what's possible and the context determines the space. And because the context and the space of the labs and of the Expand the Box and of possibility management is radical responsibility and the bright principles of transformation and clarity and all the bright principles of responsibility management make it so that the space, it doesn't have to be necessarily like a clear guided process that brings where that empowers transformation, makes transformation happen. It can happen. It can happen at the lunch table. It can happen. It's just never can quite tell where it's going to pop up, where it's going to come together and like whew, do something next. And for me too, I want to also say that some of it is, a lot of it has been excruciatingly painful. Like as the emotions are pressing up from underneath my numbness bar, from like surfacing into my conscious awareness, my box and my box is freaking out. My gremlin's trying to save me, trying to get me to avoid responsibility, avoid transformation. And it can get pretty gnarly. And yeah, I mean, when those victim stories are just like coming up fast and furious, it's not fun at all. And I guess in a way, part of what I'm here to train in is noticing it all sooner, noticing it when it's less intense, when it's more subtle, catching, like I was saying about expectations, catching them, seeing to them when they haven't like grown all up and become like resentments, and then back to the basics. Like so many people I've heard talking about just getting back to simply centering, simply having my grounding cord, having my bubble, having my gremlin on his chain, snapping my box into my hand so that I can be having a being to being conversation, sensing into my archetypal lineage, coming in and through, naming my bright principles. It's just, yeah, there's nothing like it. And then doing the conscious feelings work, unmixing the feelings. That was a huge one. Maybe I think I think it was during Expand the Box. I just did an unmixing of anger and sadness. I just kept going, unmixing anger and sadness, putting them in two piles, and then put them back in distinctly so that I can use them in their pure states. Get the information, get the energy, use them instead of having them all tangled up in me, causing this depression, mixing with a little bit of fear that then I've got isolation and depression, and I'm still walking around looking like I'm fine. You know? Yeah. And yet things under the surface. And that's what I just love so much about being here is, I mean, anytime I could just say to somebody, hey, like, or I wouldn't say it like that, but hello, will you let me know what's happening for you? Or will you ask me what's happening for me? And that could even start a process happening. Last week on the days off while I was doing my writing, somebody came in here and just said, is it okay if I just they were doing some self-surgery work. It's going to be loud. And I don't really want someone to hold space, but I want someone to be there. Like I want like presence. And I was a thumbs up to that. And I just kept doing what I was doing. And every now and then, once he was like, he kind of looked at me a couple times and I said, do you need something? And he said, yeah, I don't know what to do next. So he shared a bit about where he was at in his process and asked for a possibility. And one came right away and he was like, yes. And off he was. And he had his puke bucket and his towel and his Kleenexes. And both of us were making black holes. So the energy was just getting sucked out. And it was extraordinary. This incredible space, just because for no reason. He wanted it. He wanted to do the process and he asked for what he wanted. It just rolled from there. It's really something. Every now and then it occurs to me to wonder what it will be like to leave at the end of the month. And then I think of how Claire and Josie, who are the two women from Boulder who are here, we went up on Monday morning to have coffee at a cafe near the palace. And our little table on the boulevard, it was so, quaintly European. We have our coffee and our pastry and sitting in our chairs out on the boulevard, this castle. And with the three of us, we maintained this bubble of next culture. And there was tears and it was beautiful. Here's a picture of the castle at night. It's massive. Oh, I want to tell you a bit more about a Portugal historical thing. Here in this little castle, during the Inquisition, a lot of the writings of the mystics and the kind of esoteric practitioners, the alchemists and the were destroyed by the Inquisition. But here in Mafra, some of those books and were hidden and kept safe, and they're in the library in the palace now. So this place has long been somewhere where 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 the forces of evolution were coming into the world in some pretty remarkable ways. So that's why I want to go to the palace, is to see the books. Oh, two of the other participants went yesterday and let me know. So I'm glad I know this already, that you're not allowed into the library. You can kind of go into you can see it and you can look at it, but you have to get special permission to go in as some kind of like official reason and access to the books. And they're mostly in Latin, so I can't read much Latin. So I'll just get to stand there and see what happens. So by this time, by Tuesday evening here next week, I will have gone through a whole nother lab, bunch more processes. And so I won't be having another call at this time, but what I'm going to do at the same time next week is, what did I decide? I will let you know. It's going to be like more of a formal work talk and experiment space. And for some reason, I'm not remembering what theme I chose. And it will be, yeah, everyone's invited. And it will be like something like, I can't remember what I said. I think I said $20 to $30. Oh, it's an authentic relating using possibility management tools. So it's a little like Carola was telling about the Intimacy Cafe. It will be questions and processes that open that space up for authentic adult intimacy. So yeah, and it'll be like $20 to $30 sliding scale. You decide and pay after. So I hope you'll consider coming. And
The same day?
yeah,
Do you know that already?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it Tuesday at 8 p.m. Lisbon time, which is this whatever we started at, where you are.
Nice. I look forward to that. That sounds fun. I was actually talking to the other Joanne that's in our book club, and I led her onto the path of authentic relating, and she's been really excited about that. So I'm gonna make sure she comes to this one.
Oh,
I think she'll
cool.
enjoy it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Mia was gonna come tonight, but she was en route to Miami, so the timing didn't work out. She wants to come another time. So I'll let the study group know about that, and I'll let the money club group know about that, and I'll let the mother graduation group know about that, and I'll probably post it on Facebook. So been managing to sneak on there every now and then.
How do you feel about the fact that it's going on tomorrow, the next lab? Do you think or feel that 2 days are a good amount of break, or Would you need another day?
I'm ready to go. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And then there will be 2 more days, and then there will be the possibilitator training gathering. Are you coming back for that, Carola?
I'm probably leaving.
I'm not hearing you for some reason.
No.
Yes. Oh, and now it's not.
Nope.
When you said now, it worked, and then it didn't work.
Like, so weird.
Aw. Send me a telegram message.
Maybe like this.
Yes.
Okay, now I took them off. So I said I might be leaving with Julie, or I will leave with Julie, and I don't know which day she will choose to take her when, and we are going to cross Portugal, Spain, France, Switzerland, and Germany with her when.
Wow. What's
Yeah,
your destination? Are you going to?
Germany and going back. So I've been living now for 7 months on Canary Islands. They belong to Spain, but they are 2,000 kilometers south, so next to Africa. And I'm originally from Germany, and now I want to. So for summer, usually I go to see my family and my friends. And there are a lot of labs in Germany, I think more than anywhere in the world. So that's also why I decided not to do the third course, because I have options every month in Germany.
Great.
Yeah.
And they're in
And
Germany.
I'm thankful for your idea, because I told you about the idea I have to rent to have a place where PM people can meet. It's not like workshops, but just a house, and people can go and they know they will only meet other PM people. So in order to, like you say, it can happen at a lunch, in order to keep inspiring, practicing. And the idea of just make a little try with an Airbnb or something, I have it in my mind and could work. And if you come to Germany, Nicole, you are invited, of course.
Another point for Germany.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. I'll keep you posted.
Yes. Naomi is speaking. Now we can't hear you. Oh, she's frozen.
Oh, I want to hear what they're saying.
Sorry. How about now?
Naomi, you froze and we couldn't hear you.
I know it happens every time I try to speak, it seems. So all of you that are in Portugal, is it like for you to be participating in these trainings, and you just have to kind of pay your way there and to feed yourself?
So there's the training cost, and then there's the accommodation and food costs.
Okay.
And for the expand the box, depending on how many expand the boxes you've done, you pay less and less for each one until once you've done 5, you don't pay to come, but you still would pay accommodation and food. And the accommodation and food, there's a bit of a sliding scale also for both of those. So
Okay,
yeah, and
cool.
then so yeah, getting ourselves here is on top of that.
Okay. Have you heard much about the Possibilitator online training route program
Yes.
thing?
Yes, I joined the trainer path, the North America trainer path. I was invited, I think it was like October or November of last year. But when the Possibilitator training suddenly was created, the the Possibilitator training replaced the North America training path. So I've not been going to to the weekly group calls because they happen while we're in the lab for the North America call. But as soon as the time comes, I'll be going back into those calls. And I know that Vera, who is the space holder for the possibilitator training path, has been in the ETBN, is in all the labs, and she's also the space holder for the possibilitator trainer gathering at the end of the month. So I know she's got limited time right now when it comes to like doing the interview process.
Okay, so like when we went to that welcome call, that still hasn't like fully taken off yet. Like I haven't missed it.
No, but have you sent in your like, did you go onto the possibilitator training website and send in your form or whatever?
Yeah, like at the bottom of that page, I did that like when we signed up for the welcome call even. And I went and I think I almost even did it twice because I was like, I haven't even received any emails about it. So I'm like, did I miss it? Did it go past me? You know, I don't want to miss the train.
So Naomi, I'm so sorry. I'm remembering that we had this conversation already, and I said that I would check with Vera, and I realized that I didn't. So I'm going to do that right now while I'm here, so that I don't let it
Yeah,
slip.
I wanted to check. I was like, did it go into like my promotions emails? Like, you know, I just wanted to see if it's rolling or if I should just be a little more patient with it.
Okay.
And yeah, so you're saying that that's like the same path that you're on because they changed the name of it for North America, hey?
Yeah. And there's a distinction between being on the trainer path and on the possibilitator training path. And the trainers are people who are training to hold space for Expand the Box. And the possibilitator training path is everybody else, including the trainers who are holding space for Expand the Box or working toward it.
Okay. Cool.
So it's pretty cool how it's opened up just, for whoever's doing conscious feelings work or intimacy work or leading like certain initiation processes. Some of them you can just do with almost anybody. Some of them you need to do with people who have already like done a lot of phase 1 of feelings work. And then some of them are like, delivering and Expand the Box. It's takes some building up to, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, so there's a pretty good possibility that the Colorado bunch will host Expand the Box in Colorado, which isn't far, all things considered.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be in touch with the Seattle people too more. They haven't.
That's a lot closer.
The Seattle Possibility Management community has not been doing a lot of online stuff because they're part of like a physical community house and network that are kind of COVID bubbled already. So they've been able to keep going with in person. Though their one Expand the Box that I was going to go down for didn't end up happening because things were shutting down more. Great. There I sent it.
May
I'm,
I ask a question? Oh, sorry, Nicole. Um, I just had an experience recently where, well, actually, within the last couple of months, um, this may be off topic a little bit, but I was just wondering if I'm more open to these kind of messages uh, when a person's numbness bar and you're uh, um, opening yourself up more to like possibilities and different things, whether they um, are more likely to occur. And what happened to me is I suddenly had a very, very, very strong feeling to get in contact with a gentleman who had been doing some repairs in my home. And he had taken out copper pipes from underneath my bathroom and kitchen sinks and replaced it with cheap stuff. And at any rate, I had a really strong feeling, a few months ago to contact him regarding this. Well, I didn't contact him. And then yesterday, I had this feeling again. And so I called and found out that he had passed away. And I thought to myself, perhaps I was given a message to contact him. And the copper piping was really a red herring, so to speak, in that that wasn't really why I was supposed to call him. That I just needed to be in touch with him because I'd had a history with him uh, for 11 years already. So I'm just wondering, like, can these kind of things be trusted more? Like, I'm just feeling more alive and awake, and uh, and I am being able to use um, the low level anger and all that to process things. And another thing, like I mentioned to you in a correspondence, is I do a lot of centering, finding out where, if I'm having different thoughts and just doing that whole process. And I have found it to be very helpful. So, I say, I'm just curious what a person can trust these things that come into mind uh, with a great deal of force, I must say. So thank you for listening.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, what I really notice ongoingly is that as through the processes and through 333 and Rage Club and becoming more centered, all of this, it 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 does free up my energy, and it changes my thoughtware. So the kind of, like Clinton says this, he says, where did you get your thoughtware? And we got it before school. We had to know, we had to have thoughtware up and running before we could go to school. So school did not give us our thoughtware. We got it from our parents. We got it in our earliest formative years. And so if we got it from our parents and they got it from their parents and they got it from their parents, like, we're basically, he calls it standard human intelligence thoughtware, which abbreviated is SHIT. And it's like, it's shit thoughtware. It's so old. It's the same thoughtware that, like prehistoric humans had. And we just think different thoughts with it. And and so to be when all of this other work happens in our emotional and our energetic bodies, and our thoughtware actually changes, all kinds of things become possible. And yeah, increased awareness. And yeah, and then intuition is a thing. And in possibility management, like, it's not that we don't talk about intuition, but there's like more use this thing about impulses. You get an impulse to do something like you're talking about, or an impulse to ask a question, or an impulse to choose a certain food to eat for lunch, or yeah, and these is when we have like our numbness bar down and our tubes open, then then a lot more can happen. And yeah, yeah, thanks for sharing about that. I am starting to notice how tired my eyes and body are. So I think I'm going to wrap it up now with you. So thank you, all of you, for being here. It's so great to connect. I last week on Monday and Tuesday, I had this beautiful, yummy, delicious sadness, missing everyone who I know from before I came to Portugal. And yeah, so it's great. It's really sweet to see all of you and to be with you, and to have you join Carola from this real life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's nice to meet you.
And yeah, let me know if anything comes up, if you get impulses to ask about anything or share about anything, you can always reach out. Mostly on Telegram, but I'm checking my messenger also in my email. And those of you who are patrons will get something hopefully tomorrow.
Well, thank you for taking care of yourself, first of all. That
Yeah, thank you,
recognizing
Nicole.
that you're tired. And, yeah.
Such a great idea. I
Yeah.
loved reading it. Thank you.
great. I appreciate seeing you, hearing your voice, and getting to check in.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Good
Have a
night.
good rest of your day or a great night.